absorbent so you can use less. Enjoy the Go with Charmin.
The Good Neighbor Network, FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and online at WGNSradio.com. This is the Roundtable. A look at the news, views, politics, and people that are shaping Rutherford County.
And good morning, everybody. Welcome to your Tuesday morning edition of the Roundtable Show with your hosts, Wayne Blair and Rick Hall. We come to you every Tuesday morning here at WGNS in Murfreesboro, and we try to handle things going on within the county and the northern end of the county and things like that. And we try to put on a good show for you every week. We try at least, right, Wayne?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hail to the Chiefs.
Yeah. What a game. I mean,
Got your money's worth.
Yeah, Super Bowl, and for Blackman's Juwan Jennings to do so well. He represented Rutherford County so well.
I think everybody was on the edge of their seat because they saw he would have been the MVP if San Francisco could have pulled it out. He was the game changer.
Everybody always say, don't bet against Mahomes.
No, you can't.
I mean, he is phenomenal. What an athlete.
He sure is.
But it was good. I was happy for the game. I'm not going to say on air who I was for. So.
Well, I was going for which Trey Smith plays for. He's a lineman there for Kansas City as well. Yeah. But Juwan's, I think, mom works with my wife, so there's a little personal thing towards knowing him. And I watched him a lot at Blackman run all over Smyrna. So,
there were four. Two for each team from Middle Tennessee. So the Blue Raiders were well represented. So it was good. Rick, this morning, with great pleasure to have the trustee for for Rutherford County, longtime friend, and again relative by marriage that I take great pride in, and Teb Batey is not only a community leader, but also a man of faith, and it's got to be great knowing going to bed every night knowing that the Lord is real and that Jesus Christ is our Savior and our King.
It makes you sleep better.
Yes, sir.
It gives purpose to life and hope for a future.
Yes, sir.
It's great to be here with you, gentlemen. We were talking about this show has a lot to do with the north end of the county. I grew up here in Murfreesboro, but both my parents are from Smyrna. Mom was from Old Jefferson, and that family stayed there till the dam came through in the mid-'60s, and my grandparents moved then to Murfreesboro, and Dad was from Rock Springs. And they both graduated from Smyrna High School, so I have a lot of connections to Smyrna. But it's great to be with y'all this morning.
Well, we're again so happy to have you, and hope you'll talk about not only yourself but your family. Of course, my family all originated from the Rock Springs area too, and so there's some intermingling there as well.
Absolutely, yes. That's again where my parents grew up. I grew up here in Murfreesboro, but we've seen so much change all over this county, having been here for so many years. But especially the Smyrna area and that Rock Springs, Blair Road, all of that area, which was in the country. But I can remember family buried at Roselawn, has been for most of my life, that we would go to the cemetery at Roselawn. And I thought as a little kid we were taking a hike, to go out there. Now it's in the city limits of Murfreesboro. I can't believe that because it was in the country 50 years ago. Yeah. But then I grew up here in Murfreesboro, and so my family was involved in Batey's office supply and photo for a number of years, and then I was been blessed to serve as Rutherford County trustee, a job that I thoroughly enjoy. Have 4 children, 3 two are in college now, and they're doing well, and still have one in high school, and she's doing well. My wife teaches 7th grade science, and enjoys that. Has 7th grade boys first period and looks forward to that. So she's special. I think living with me has made 7th grade boys a treat. That's all I can figure. But she does that, and my mom is still living and does well, and I think probably listening to us this morning. So good morning, Mom, and glad that she is well. And been at Milton. I live in the Milton community. I live out House Hill Pike, and have, as you mentioned, I've been fortunate enough. I've been preaching at Milton for 35 years.
Wow!
So when I got out of college, they invited me to come fill in, and here I'm still there, and it's a wonderful community and wonderful family of people to be associated with.
I don't know if I know any two finer people, or have ever known two finer people than your mom and dad.
Well, thank you. I think the world of them, and we've had a great time through the years, and connected with even a larger family that's been very close and been involved in this community. As the community grows, this is still home, and know so many people.
And you saved your dad's life. He had an incident with a tractor and a utility pole, from what I recall, a number of years ago. And
that was, yes, Dad was. It was the Saturday before Easter. It was a beautiful, beautiful day. I had been up at church. We were working around the church building before Easter Sunday, redoing landscaping and all that type of things, and washing windows that you do. And Dad was spraying on the farm, spraying for weeds, and caught the guide wire on a power pole and pulled it down, broke the power pole, and then that electrocuted him, and he got burned pretty severely with that, and did recover, but that was life-changing for him. Had to have some skin grafts, and did impact him. Survived it and was able to go. His goal was to be able to swing a sledgehammer again, because it impacted his arm, and he was able to do that. I have lots of goals in life. That's not one of them, but it was for him, because he enjoyed just getting out and working, and was able to recover. But it was severe. I gained a great respect, appreciation, I guess, for people who are burned at the pain and recovery of that, sure. Whether that be, in the military or whatever that occurs, and a great appreciation for the burn unit at Vanderbilt Hospital, an amazing place, an amazing group of people that really seem to care and are very talented at what they do. And we're blessed in this area to have those kind of hospitals, because Dad was there for several days, and people from all over the eastern part of the United States would come there,
That's
and
right.
Fortunate that we're that close to have that kind of quality is a blessing.
My daughter was in that unit for a number of years after she graduated from MTSU. She got a job with Vanderbilt, and her first position at Vanderbilt was in the burn unit. And I thought, my little girl, I just can't imagine, being in a burn unit. That's got to be very traumatic.
And appreciative of the people that can do that, because some of those individuals who were there were severely burned all over. Of course, you get close to their families, because you'd have visiting time, and you'd go in and visit, and everybody would come back to the waiting room and find out how other people's family was doing, and hoping that they were recovering. You build some community and pray for each other, and again, but a great staff, so caring, and just do wonderful work.
So how do you become so brilliant in the financial world?
I don't know. Ask somebody who's brilliant at it, Wayne, and you might get that.
We think you are.
Well,
I believe you are.
That is a part. In serving as trustee, the way most of the public knows us, and kind of our front-facing work, is through the property tax and the property tax programs that we'll talk about, because they are really important. But also in that role, we do all the banking for the county and do the investing for the county, and that's a role that I enjoy. My education has been in finance and economics. I worked at Batey's until I was 40. It's when we sold the business, but I've always been drawn to the finance side, and liked it. In fact, when I'd write papers, I'd write on banking and those things and investing. So it's just something I enjoy. And be able to do that for the county. It's been a lot of fun for me. I enjoy reading economic data. For some people, I know that would be drudgery, but to get up in the morning where
I'm
some
raising
people,
my hand.
yeah, where some people read the sports section, I go to read what the economists have put out for the day, and just find that enjoyable. And then with the county, at certain times we will have fairly large balances, and so a little bit of difference in interest rates over time adds up to quite a lot of money. So it makes it rewarding to be able to look and not take unnecessary risk, but to see what the market's offering in way of return, and improving that just a little bit, because it adds to county's income and saves us in tax dollars. It gives us we can spend that on interest and not have to take it out of tax revenue.
Sure.
Growing up, I guess, what age did y'all end up out in Milton, in that area out there? I know you were talking about family in Old Jefferson, and I guess when they come in and started buying all that up, everybody starting having to move out. But
1966 is when my grandparents, and they moved to Murfreesboro, but I had an aunt and uncle that moved to the Milton community from Old Jefferson, and then the Dunns, who had lived there, they moved to over Milton Hill. If people are familiar with Milton Hill, it certainly was more memorable before the new road came in issue around. So they had moved to Milton, but Dad and Mom bought the first farm in the Porterfield community. We're about 5 miles out of Milton in 1968 when I was young, and raised cattle there and spent a lot of time there. But none of us ever lived there until I married. And when Carrie and I married, we moved into one of the farmhouses and stayed there and raised the family since the 90s.
You talk about Roselawn. I think of Milton being way out in the country, but I've got a couple of friends that live out there, and I go visit them now, and I'm just astonished by the growth that's even happening out there. And a lot of the old farms, they cut them up in acreage tracts, and you've got a lot of housing and things going in. It's really grown up out that way.
It's especially on the Las Casas Highway side.
You're right,
Rick. But all of that has changed. For a long time, the lots would just sell, and people would buy them, and then they would resell them. Now, when a lot sells, somebody's putting a house in it. People are wanting to move into our community, and it is a great community. But we're seeing a tremendous amount of growth. Not so much big subdivisions. You've got the Farmington and all there in Las Casas, but acreage tracts, but quite a few, even on North Milton Road. I think they've added 8 houses to one little place that's sold there. So that's all come in the last year.
Well, we'll know you make it when y'all get a Dollar General out in Milton.
Well,
there's one in Las Casas.
We got one at Las Casas. We hadn't quite got one yet.
Yeah, I'm sure they're eyeballing it.
But the one at Auburntown and one at Las Casas.
There was always conversation in the commission when Rick and I served that, that a single-family home on a acre lot was much better for the county than a subdivision with several houses. Although you're bringing a lot of property tax from those several houses, but the services for a single home possibly not as great.
That's true. I know even as we speak, we're working on some new zoning layout for the county, a growth plan. The Planning Commission is working on that and have put a lot of work into that. And you have those issues of density that you want, because of traffic and schools and all of those things. Then you have, on the other hand, this balance of using up the land, and so there you have to balance that, because you do a 5-acre lot, it lowers the density, but what tends to happen, those lots tend to be very narrow and very deep, so the houses all line up along the road. You've used up 5 acres. It still looks like a subdivision when you drive down the road, and you've used up a lot of land. So there's a balance of how you maintain density, a lower density without taking land, because that 5 acres is really too small for a tractor and too big for a billy goat, and you might have a few, and it's not always as useful. So I know they're working hard on that, and I appreciate them doing that, because there are a lot of issues. And so I think the challenge for us is, how do we maintain the quality of life as people want to move here, allow people to move here, but not use up, all of our land and not lose the views that we have. And I think there's some ways to do that, and I know they're working on that, because it's like every issue. There's the simple answer, and then there's the correct answer. When I say that, when you think about let's just require bigger lots, and there's some place, but then you're using up land that you may not get back, and that's a real commodity. There's been a study done that Ag Extension, University of Tennessee Agricultural Extension, has worked on across the state of Tennessee on how much land has been lost to agriculture complete across the state, and it's been very interesting. Kevin Ferguson, who works out of Rutherford County, has been very involved in that, and they have gotten a lot of that data, and it's actually available for you to look at, but not only Rutherford County, but across the state. And how do we do that? In fact, Governor Lee has proposed some money in the budget, and it's working its way again through the legislature, or will begin to be able to set aside some money where individuals that don't want their land developed would get compensated for putting their land out of development, at least for a period of time. Not quite like the land trusts that have existed, but where the state will be involved as urban pressure, suburban pressure comes on some of this land, to compensate them for keeping it in an agricultural use, not development, because sometimes it becomes difficult to turn that down. So it's a real challenge across the state that people are working on.
The Greenbelt helps with the tax burden.
Absolutely, that's a state program. For people who are not familiar with Greenbelt, you have to have a minimum of 15 acres to be involved in green, and it has to be involved either in timber or agriculture. There's some requirements, but what it does is that property is taxed at a use value, not at a development value, not at the highest and best use. When we were in school, I took an appraisal class, and that was the conversation, the highest and best use for this property. Well, in Rutherford County, most of the property's highest and best use would be for some kind of home, commercial development, and so you would look at that value, and we're taxed on that. But the Greenbelt, there's a formula that values what farm-to-farm sales are, and there are not many of those in our county, but the state works on that, what the prices of farm commodities are, and comes up with a formula, and again, based on the quality of the land. It's still graded, because obviously some land is better, would produce more than other, but it allows that farm to be taxed for what its agricultural value would be, not competing in a commercial or residential value. So it does allow those owners, while they're still paying property tax, not to be priced out because a subdivision goes in next to them, and then a quarter acre lot's worth $50,000 or $75,000 or what it is, and that translates to them. They're able to actually pay at a lower value, and so that's really an important thing, and it does take some of the pressure off. That where people who want to keep it can. Because what you don't want to be is, we can't afford to pay the taxes anymore. We really don't want to sell this, but we don't have a choice. We can't afford to keep it.
So somebody that owns a number of acres, 15 plus acres, that has rock, we're in Rutherford County.
We all have that.
Yeah, and a cedar thicket that's probably not, probably not going to be good for agriculture, maybe not good for timber, not even good for a subdivision. What happens in that situation?
There's the farm, and there's also an open space requirement that they can qualify. But a lot of folks are running a horse, they're cutting some hay, they're running some goats. It doesn't have to be in high production. Okay. But what the limitations are is, let's say somebody has, I'll use the term an estate. They've got a 20-acre estate where they mow it like a golf course. There's not anything. It wouldn't qualify. If you and there are some of those. It's treed and it's kind of an estate yard. Sure. But this is designed to help people who are using it or it's available. And sometimes they're swapping out maybe. You don't necessarily have to be producing agriculture on it. Maybe your neighbor runs a cow, or maybe somebody cuts hay off of that. They don't necessarily pay you, but it's producing value, because instead of you paying somebody to keep it clean, you let them have the hay to clean it, and that would still qualify under that program. And the assessor's office does that. So we'd be glad to talk to you about it in the trustee's office or the assessor of property. Have those, and there's a March deadline to qualify this year. So if you believe your property qualifies for that, now would be the time to call about it.
You listen to Teb Batey, the trustee for the Rutherford County. I guess it's not Rutherford County Department trustee or trustee department. I guess would be the technical way.
Yeah.
Tongue-tied on that one, but well, I hope you're enjoying it so far, other than me speaking here. But we're going to take our first break. We'll be right back with you in just a minute.
This is Stan Vaught. I'm a lot like you, a husband, father, farmer, auctioneer, and community supporter. I'm now a candidate for school board in the last cases, Walter Hill, Milton, Leanna, Oakland, and Siegel communities. I believe in community schools, vocational education, and getting education back to the basics. I'd appreciate your support for school board.
Early voting is February 14th through 26th. Election day is March 5th, paid for by Stan Vaught for school board, Stan Vaught treasurer.
Finding that missing shin guard, remembering whether it's a home or away game, getting the right kid to the right playing field on the right day. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with auto owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. We work with independent agents who keep insurance simple so you can worry about more important things, like not being that fan. Oh, come on, Ref! That's simple human sense.
Rayburn Insurance in Smyrna.
Come see me, Rick Hall, at Rayburn Insurance in downtown Smyrna today.
Hey, it's Scott. When it comes to health, there are numbers that every man needs to know, including your testosterone number. I recommend Low T Center, where they make it quick and easy to get your levels checked, and it's only $25. You walk in, take a simple blood test, and with their on-site lab, you'll get your results in about 25 minutes. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy. They can cause a lack of motivation and drive. It can raise your cholesterol, cause weight gain, and loss of muscle mass. Go to lowtcenter.com right now to book your appointment online. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
This is Good Neighbor Events with Bart Walker. Brought to you by AmeriCare Pest Control and the law offices of John Day.
This is a paid legal ad.
Hi, this is John Day of the law offices of John Day. I've lived and worked as a lawyer in Middle Tennessee for over 30 years, and to me, every single day has been an honor. That's why our firm is so involved with community programs like bicycle helmet giveaways and our Safe Ride Home program. At the law offices of John Day, we're not just looking to make donations. We want to make a difference in the community we hold so dear. And if you're ever injured, know that we are here for you too.
If it's happening around here, WGNS will let you know about it. If you're grieving the loss of a loved one, there are 2 grief support groups right here in Murfreesboro. One meets every Wednesday morning at 10 at the St. Clair Street Senior Center. The other is a walking grief support group tour, and they meet under the shelter at Oaklands Park every Thursday morning at 9:30. You've been asking, where do I take classes that teach me how to better use my computer? The Technology Engagement Center is offering 2 free classes. One's every Monday from 3:30 to 5 in the afternoon, and the other is on Tuesday afternoons from 2:30 to 3:30. They're both free, and they're at the Technology Engagement Center. That's at 306 Minerva Drive. Get with them for more information. Don't throw away old glory. Bring your tattered American flag to WGNS and let the girls from BSA Troop 2019 at Trinity United Methodist Church retire it with dignity. Plus, we also recycle Bibles. Those are WGNS Good Neighbor events.
Good Neighbor weather. Mostly sunny skies here this afternoon with a high in the mid-50s. Northwest winds of 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight mostly clear and a low near 31. I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki on News Radio WGNS. Currently it's 35.
WGNS is powered by Middle Tennessee Electric. United Communications, NTE's internet company, keeps growing. It announced in August a multi-year project expansion. It will create 1,400 route miles of new fiber optic lines capable of delivering multi-gig internet service.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
And good morning. Welcome back to the second segment of Tuesday Mornings with Rick and Wayne. And it's our great pleasure this morning to have the trustee for Rutherford County, Mr. Teb Batey, which Rick and I both have known for a long, long time and have such great respect for. And we know that you have a lot on your plate, especially during the month of February, and grateful for you to be with us this morning.
Great to be here, always.
Do you want to talk about, of course, I guess your primary responsibility is collecting the property tax and overseeing that money, but you also have some programs that benefit some of our senior citizens here in Rutherford County as well.
We do. We collect the property taxes, and property taxes, and this is interesting for us to kind of discuss, if you don't mind. Our tax rate is $1.8762, maybe more decimals than you wanted, per $100 of assessed value. Now, what does all that mean to us? Well, property is appraised and is general at this highest and best use. Every 4 years, the assessor of property revalues that property. And there is a lot of discussion in Nashville, I don't want to get too far in the weeds, of tightening that cycle, maybe from 4 years to 2 years, or maybe for a fast-growing county like Rutherford, every 1 year. Now, that's not designed to produce more income for the county, and we'll talk about that in a second. But it is designed to make sure that those taxes are spread out evenly, because what we found is that residential properties have gone up much faster than commercial property has, and it impacts the personal property taxes on businesses. Now, what's that? Most people don't even know that exists. But businesses in our community pay tax on the equipment used in their business. So computers, trucks, tools, those things have a value and they pay a tax on that. And so that's impacted by this reappraisal cycle. So there's a lot of discussion about tightening that reappraisal. So, and then you don't get these large jumps every 4 years, but on a more regular cycle. And so that's a discussion. I won't get too far in the weeds, but that's probably going to happen. And a lot of discussion in Nashville even this week. But the property is assessed, and it has an appraised value. Let's just use $100,000. It's a $100,000 piece of property, but you're not taxed on $100,000. For residential property, you're taxed on 25% of that. So the tax rate applies to $25,000. So it's $1.87 per hundred of the $25,000. For commercial property, and that would be businesses or residential property that is more than one, like a duplex. That's right. That is not owner occupied. So if I own a duplex and I live in one side and I rent out one side, it would be taxed at the 25%. But if I own a duplex and I rent out both sides, then it's taxed at a 40% assessment, as is apartment buildings and those things. Those are all taxed at 40%. So the tax rate is the same, but it applies to 40% of their value, not 25% of the residential value. And then the personal property pays tax on 30% of its value. So you have those proportional taxes, and I'm getting too far away, but that's how that's done. So commercial property actually is paying at a higher percentage of its value than residential. A lot of people, sometimes we kind of miss that.
Let me ask you a question along that line, because there have been discussions because so many single-family homes have been bought up by national companies and they're renting them out. So they're single-family homes, they're not duplexes, and they're still assessed at that 25%. There's been some talk about changing that to where you're going to have to report that, hey, this is a rental house, and then that rate will change on that. But that's going to take help from the state to get that done. That just can't go through a county or city PAC, right?
There's discussion on that, yes. And it's really an interesting thing. And when I first came to this office, to realize we are regulated by state law. Mm-hmm. Counties are subdivisions of the state. And in the private sector, you can do whatever the law doesn't tell you can't do. Unless it's illegal, you're free to do it. It's quite the opposite in government.
That's right.
In government, you can only do what the law authorizes you to do. So sometimes I know we don't do things, well, that's just common sense, but if the law doesn't give us the authority, we can't do it, which is a very different. So you're right, we have to go to Nashville or have our legislative body, the county commission, pass regulations. So that's a big discussion, and it often gets talked about these large companies, but to make that apply fairly, it's going to have to apply to even local individuals who own 2 or 3 rental houses. You know, that's always the catch to that. I want to tax the folks out of Scottsdale, Arizona, who own lots of houses, but whatever rule we use has to be applied fairly. But if that they are rentals, there's probably a real argument that maybe those should be taxed at 40%, but they are at 25% today if they're single family dwellings. And then there's always the enforcement side of that too, who's living there, and you just have to work through it. It doesn't make it impossible, but you have to work through those things.
With Wayne and I being in insurance, that several years ago the insurance went through and you would do these neighborhood associations or condo associations, and then insurance started catching on because they would immediately say they were going to be owner occupied, and within 6 months they were 90% rentals. And they've a lot of stipulations now in insurance policies is it has to have an 80% ownership, so it's an 80-20 split, and it's hard to they insure those that want to rent out, the majority of them, at a higher rate now than what they do if you've got a contingency of homeowners, because they look at it from the standpoint of, as a homeowner takes care of their home, renters don't take care of their property as well, so they've made contingencies, and it's changed the insurance industry a little bit because of that.
And that's but monitoring that is and wanting to be fair
it takes
to
them
everybody.
To self-report it, and if you're not self-reporting it, then they'll catch up to you one day, but it's not today.
That is correct.
So let me ask you another question, because you also, and I don't know what, I know in Smyrna anyways, you're able to collect the taxes for Smyrna as well as the county at the same time, and I know Murfreesboro has their own tax rate, and Eagleville and Laverne. Are you able to accept tax payments for all those, or is it just partnerships you've got with some of them?
Partnership with Eagleville and Smyrna. We do the tax freeze, which we'll talk about. We do those applications for all the jurisdictions across the county, and which makes it. And we collect the taxes for the town of Smyrna and for the city of Eagleville, and then Rutherford County.
So, if my house is worth $100,000 and the assessed rate is at 1.87, and I'll just round it there. And so you're going to pay that on the county side, and then at the tax rate that the county sets, and then the Smyrna Town Council sets their own rate, and then they're assessed for that rate that the town, and there's a collection of both those, and that number's just not grabbed out of the air. That's off that assessed value that was originally stipulated.
That's correct. And sometimes that's a real question. Every property pays the county tax.
That's right.
But if that property is located within the city limits of any of our cities, then it also pays that separate city tax. And that sometimes for people moving in, that can be a little confusing, but it do, because they receive city services.
Well, a lot of people, if they especially come from a metro form of government where you have one, like Nashville, you have one tax bill because it's a metro Nashville area. Where you might have a special district like Berry Hill or an area like that, but for tax purposes, you only pay that one bill, where it's a little bit different here.
Yes, yeah. But we collecting those has worked out really well for the jurisdictions that we do, and the others, for Murfreesboro, they have a different due date, and it's a little different. In Laverne, Becky Steed does a great job down there and collecting, but we work well with all of them.
With about 60 people a week, they say, is moving into Rutherford County, and obviously with our senior and with good health care that we brought up earlier in the show, and this tax freeze. Is there a big campaign that gets out of word of mouth or publications put out to try to help some of these people? They understand. I know through the real estate market or closing process, I don't know if it's ever brought up that much, but I know I've brought it up a few times now with doing new buyers that are moving here. I just had a lady move here from Illinois, and I made her aware of what was going on, that she was moving down here for grandkids purposes, but to come see you guys, and gave her the phone number. But can we break that down a little bit? So I know there's qualifications you got to have for that.
Are you talking about the tax programs?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We can. Look, if you don't mind, I want to go back to the tax rate just a little bit. We'll talk about that for just a second.
Okay.
Because it's at 187.62. When I first came into office, it was $273 or $284, I believe, at that time. So you were actually paying nearly $1 per 100 more in tax. Now, for many folks say, yeah, but I'm paying more. But inflation and the values have gone up, but the tax rate has actually dropped. Years and years ago, there were times when the tax rate was north of $4. Back in older time. Now, sometimes they weren't paying but a few dollars because they didn't have a lot of value. Sure. But it's interesting with the growth, our tax rate is really pretty historically low. In fact, before the tax increase of this year, the 2022 rate was the lowest I could find going back before 1973. Wow. So the real dollars, but my hamburger cost me more. But as a percentage of value, our taxes are really kind of low. And that's what happens in that reappraisal. There's a certified tax rate. So we dropped from a tax rate in the 2s to a tax rate in the 1s because that reappraisal, and so this having a more frequent reappraisal is not designed to bring in more revenue for the county, because as those values go up, we have to acknowledge this certified tax rate that in aggregate causes no increase in revenue to the county. And I say that because if my property goes up more than the average, Wayne, I'm going to pay a little more tax after that. If yours goes up a little less, you're going to pay less. And so I have some people say, well, if the county's getting more revenue because I'm paying more. That's correct, but your neighbor or somebody across the county is paying a little less. In the total, it doesn't keep every property the same, but it says those properties as they were will produce the same income in total as they were before. So the incentive for the appraisal and for the assessor and the county is not to increase revenue. It's just to say, are we doing this fairly? If you're paying a percentage of value, is everybody's value equalized? Are we there? So that's the
and
reason.
That's like a Rob Mitchell issue. I know he was working hard to get the word out when those assessments come through, because everybody got those mailers coming in the mail, and it was sticker shock. And he worked hard through his office to put out publications that, hey, yeah, this number is gone up, your value's gone up, but your assessed value of that dollar is going to lower.
Yeah. The tax rate's going to the tax rate, because if you took the old tax rate and multiplied it by that new value, there would have been a rush at the funeral home. And that's not how that works. So, but we do have some programs.
Can I ask you one other question?
Sure,
before we move on, the certified rate. Does the comptroller develop that for each county, or does the county develop it and the comptroller or Secretary of State, do they approve it? How does that work?
The comptrollers, it's Comptroller Treasury. We all work very closely with the comptroller's office in Nashville. The comptroller will come in and do it. In some counties, don't always have the staff that's qualified to figure that. We're very fortunate to have qualified folks in Rutherford County. But so they do develop the certified tax rate based on the numbers, on the tax roll as it was and the moving. And it's not as easy as it seems, because, again, it is for those properties that are the same. So, if we've added a new subdivision, the dollars on that tax rate might actually increase, because the county's not penalized on that growth. So those have to be taken out and figured differently. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on that. But our assessing office typically comes up with that, and somewhat in cooperation with the comptroller. But the comptroller's office looks and says, "Is this correct?" Wow. They look across and say, "This we believe that is the correct number." So that it is approved by the comptroller's office, and we're audited. All of the county is audited every year by the comptroller's office. All of our departments and the things that we do to assure that those things are accurate.
I'm sure that's a real fun time.
It was nerve-wracking the first time or two. What I appreciate very much about Comptroller Mumpower, Jim Arnett, who's in charge of audit, is they have an attitude of, we want this to be right. We don't want to come in and we're not looking for a gotcha. Which we're not looking to find we're looking to find a problem if it's there, but we're only there to help you to be better. So working with them, which is great. And so if you have a question, you can talk to them, throughout the year and try to get those resolved. And so it is great that they're doing their job, and they're not going to cover for you, but they're not coming in hoping they find something. Sure. They just want it to be accurate, and that's a great attitude. And I appreciate them very much. And then after you've been in office a while, you develop the attitude, maybe you should have it from the very beginning of, if there is a problem, we don't know about it. And so we want it pointed out, and we're going to correct it. We hope it's not, but we're not intentionally not doing what we should. And very often those audit findings are not that money's gone. It's just this procedure wasn't followed. Sometimes they find money. Sometimes we think the biggest thing is money. We don't ever want money to be gone, but sometimes it's not procedurally doing things accurately. And so we always want to make sure if we're not, let's find it and do it correctly.
Yes, sir.
Quick question on that. I know we're about against our next break, but system-wise, is everybody using a privatized system that's uniform that the state requires you to use, or are you allowed to go to your own vendor? I'm thinking of as a comptroller coming in and you have maybe deal with several different systems, how difficult that might be. How is that recorded or kept up with record-wise?
There are some systems, computer systems, whether that be in trustees' offices or finance offices or sheriff's offices. There are different ones that will have the majority of counties in them, or a couple that will catch the majority. But then there will be some, and especially the larger counties have their own IT departments, and they write their own, because we're working on some legislation that has to deal with the way that interest is applied to partial payments, and we're having to work to make that timeline long enough for these varying vendors to change their software to do it, because you just can't change software overnight. It seems easy, but in doing that, Rick, I found out how many different ones write their own software and in the middle. But there are vendors that would control the lion's share of the different offices across the country. Like for trustees, which I know the best, there are 2 vendors that would probably cover 90 of the 95 counties, and one of those would probably cover maybe 75 of those. And so that's fairly uniform. And they work well, so they kind of know how that system works.
Good deal. Listen to Teb Batey, the Rutherford County Trustee Office, and we're going to take our last break and we'll be right back with you in just a minute.
Hi, this is Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates. You might know me as the voice of the Blue Raiders, but I want to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Whether you're buying or selling, it's time to choose Chip. Do you have a growing family and need to upsize? Are you an empty nester now and need to downsize? Are you thinking of selling your current home but just worried you can't find something else? Well, it's time to choose Chip. I'm looking to be your trusted advisor in real estate. I'm Chip Walters with Exit Realty Bob Lamb & Associates.
As a leader in environmental services, sustainability is deeply integrated into our business model. At Middle Point Landfill, we are environmentalists at heart. This is Mike Klassen with Middle Point Landfill. We use cutting-edge technology in combination with our deep experience in recycling and waste services to protect our environment and our neighbors. That's our job, and that's our promise. We invite you to learn more about us at middlepointlandfill.com. For Public Services, we are sustainability in action.
It's a critical time in education, and we need experience on the Rutherford County School Board. That's why we need to elect Butch Vaughn to the school board in Zone 6. He brings experience as a public educator from his years in the classroom and as a coach to being principal at Central and Blackman Middle and Oakland High Schools. Butch Vaughn has also been in private education as the former headmaster at PCA. Experience counts, especially now. That's why we need Butch Vaughn on the Rutherford County School Board. Paid for by Butch Vaughn for School Board. Pryor Manning, Treasurer.
Here at Bud's Tire, we make buying Michelin tires simpler. I'm Allison Mitchell with Bud's Tire Pros. We offer a straightforward approach to service, including nationwide warranties with every purchase. Stop in today to see our full lineup of Michelin and BF Goodrich tires. For whatever you drive, Michelin and BF Goodrich have a tire to fit any need. Bud's Tire Pros, hassle-free, guaranteed. We're located on East Main Street, exactly 3 miles from the town square, 1 mile past Rutherford Boulevard. Visit us online at budstirepros.tn.com.
Murfreesboro loves downtown and all the small businesses. This February, choose to share experiences and gifts from downtown, the place to feel loved. Unique gifts, tasty treats, romantic dinners, and fun experiences. Downtown Murfreesboro, the place to feel loved this February. Support your local small businesses in downtown Murfreesboro this Valentine's. Brought to you by Main Street Murfreesboro.
Looking for something to take your mind off this traffic? How about a true story of instant success? Did you hear about the 2 friends who went grocery shopping in Ashland City and picked up everything on their list plus $75,000? or the one where a truck driver made a last-minute stop off Interstate 40 and drove off with a cool $1 million. All their lives changed in an instant, and yours could too. So stop by your local retailer for your chance with instant games from the Tennessee Lottery. Game-changing, life-changing fun. Please play responsibly.
This is the Roundtable from News Radio WGNS on FM 101.9 and AM 1450 Murfreesboro, FM 100.5 Smyrna, and worldwide at WGNSradio.com.
Good morning and welcome back to the third and final segment of Tuesday Mornings with Rick and Wayne. And it's been our pleasure this morning to have the trustee for Rutherford County, Mr. Teb Batey, and you've shared a lot of information that I suspect many of our listeners haven't heard before or maybe possibly didn't understand. So thank you for clarifying some of those issues. And I think you're going to talk about in this segment some programs that you have that benefits those that are on fixed income or economically suffering, I guess.
Would love to, because that really is some important programs. And we have a tax freeze, which we'll talk about first, and then we'll talk about tax relief. And those are two separate programs. You don't have to keep that separate in your mind, but they are. But the tax freeze only applies to seniors, 65 and older. It is for the property that you live on. It has to be on your primary residence. And it freezes your property taxes, keeps them from going up. So the year that you apply, that becomes what we call your base year. And as long as you continue to qualify for the program, and these programs both require annual requalification. So it's not a one and done, because there's an income component and a residency component. We need to see you every year. As long as you continue to qualify, whether it's because of reappraisal that we've talked about or a tax increase, if your property taxes are frozen, your taxes won't go up. If, especially in the reappraisal, your taxes were to go down, then you would benefit from the decrease, and your taxes would lock in at that lower rate. There's no lien against your property. When you sell it, when you pass away, nobody has to pay anything back. This is a free, so there's none of our programs does anybody have to pay back because you've been on this, and that's a really frequent question, but it doesn't. But there is an income limit, 65 or older. We're using 2022 income because we're collecting 2023 taxes, so it's 2022 income, which is a little confusing. But that income limit for 2022 for the applicant and their spouse and all owners of the property. And the reason we say that is if your children are on your deed, we have to count their income. Now, it can be owned by a trust. As long as you're the beneficiary of the trust, you can still qualify. But any names that are on the deed, we have to count their income. But that income limit for 2022 income was $47,570. And it's not too late for either one of these programs to qualify for 2023. We've still got a little time. $47,570. The county legislative body, the county commission, has voted that in 2024, next year's tax, or this year's taxes, it will become due in October. If in 2023 you made $60,000 or less, so we're going from $47,500 to $60,000, a pretty significant increase. So if you haven't been able to qualify in the past, you might be able to qualify now. We'll go to $60,000. If you believe you're going to qualify on that, give us a call starting this summer. We can't take those applications, but around the 1st of June, give us a call. All of our programs, we really want you to make an appointment. We'll tell you what to bring. Then you can come in. You shouldn't have to wait very long. We can get you in on both programs, but we'll be able to get you frozen at that higher $60,000 value. So that's the senior tax freeze, and again, only applies to seniors. Now, tax relief has three components. One of those is for seniors, same type requirements, but the income limit for that, using 2022 income, is $33,460. That also applies for disabled homeowners. So if you're disabled through Social Security, again, would be your income, your disability, any other owners, your spouse, again, you can qualify as a disabled homeowner for tax relief, and that income limit's $33,460. We also have tax relief for disabled veterans. And that disability rating through the VA is total and permanent, a total and permanent disability, and there is no income limit for veterans. So it doesn't matter how much money you make as a veteran, if you're totally and permanently disabled from a service-connected disability, you're entitled to tax relief. And so you can call us on
and
that.
That's not a percentage. That is a total disability for a veteran.
That is correct. Total and permanent. So if you're 50%, that's not total, because there's a lot of folks who have some disability rate, but it's a total and permanent disability. And again, no income limit. And if you're the surviving spouse of a disabled homeowner, you can qualify. So if you're the widow or a widower of a disabled veteran, you can also qualify unless you've remarried. If you remarried, but if you've not remarried and your husband or wife was a total and permanent disabled veteran, then you would be able to qualify for this program as well. And so that assists a lot. Also, we take partial payments in our offices, which have some. You don't have to pay it all in one lump sum, because sometimes it's easier to pay $100 or $50 at a time versus $800 or $1,000, and we'll work with you on that. There's no upcharge to do that. You know, sometimes in the insurance world, if I don't pay it all, Rick, there's a $6 fee or whatever added. We don't add any fee to that.
10% to the big guy.
There you go. So, but you can make those partial payments. But because our due date for town of Smyrna and Eagleville and Laverne and Rutherford County is February 29th. Any payments, and we accept a postmark. So if you get it in the mail, that's certainly fine. Doesn't have to be in our office by the 29th, but has to be postmarked. But any payment not made, even if you're making a partial payment, any balance unpaid as of March the 1st, there is interest added at 1.5% per month. And that's added the first of each month. So making a partial payment is fine, but it doesn't stop the interest on the unpaid portion. But on that part you get paid, you're obviously not paying interest on that. And so, but remember that your taxes are due. You can always check those taxes online. You can print a receipt. You can see if it's been paid. You can see what your amount is. You can pay online at rctrustee.com. That's our website, and you can call that, and or you can look that up, and you can print it off. Mail it, you can pay. If you use a card, if you use a credit card, either in our office or online, doesn't cost any more online, there's a 2.5% fee plus 30 cents. County doesn't charge that, but that's how you get the airline miles. The card companies, a lot of people don't realize card companies charge merchants to use those cards. So it's 2.5% on a credit card. On a debit card, that's now been lowered from 2.5 to 1.99% plus 30 cents. Right at 2% to use a debit card. But you can go on and use what we call an e-check or an ACH, if you remember, where you put in your routing number and account number, and that's a flat $1.50. You can pay multiple parcels with that, but so you can go online and pay for that $1.50, which is more economical. You can certainly come to our offices, our Smyrna office. We do have an office in Smyrna. It is in the county clerk's building where you get your car tags in Smyrna at 205 I Street off of Weekly Lane. Don't get in the line. You can't go to the drive-thru. You have to come in. Don't get in the line where the car tags are. Our clerks are to the far left, and just come on in. And we accept that they're there 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Do go to lunch from 12:30 to 1, but I can tell you the last week or two of February, we won't close for lunch. We'll be open through. We'll be there 8 to 4. In Murfreesboro, we're in the old historic courthouse. Rick, we were talking about it's wonderful to be in that building. The old building with the clock tower on top. We're in room 205 on the main floor. We're there 8 to 4:30 Monday through Friday in that location. And there's parking in the inner circle, and there are 2 parking places that say trustee or for official business. That means you. If you're coming to do one of our tax programs or pay taxes, you're doing official building and business, and so there's some parking places right there for you to come and park, which makes it a little more convenient. But you can come in and pay with a cash, check, cards, whatever's convenient for you to make those payments, and then we can help you with these programs if you believe that you qualify. You're certainly welcome to call us at 615-898-7705. We'll be glad to talk with you or schedule you an appointment to get you qualified, because there is still time to get on either one of these programs if you qualify for 2023.
Citizens from time to time will get scam artists being deputy sheriffs or police officers for a municipality. Has that been a problem? Someone portraying themselves as an officer of the trustee's office or anything?
Fortunately, it hasn't. Okay. And we would not, if we called you about something that would be a problem you would probably be familiar with, we will call, but we're not going to ask for your card over the phone. We're not going to ask for you to go get gift cards and bring us. I mean, the things that that do happen, and we're not going to ask you, say, if you give us your credit card number, you can go on to our website, or we do have a toll-free number you can use, but we're not going to take that. Nobody from my office is ever going to call and say, hey, we need your card number to get this resolved. And so those are things to always be aware of, because they do happen. I'll just share with you, because I was talking to some of this that happened from another agency. The biggest fraud we see from the county is not electronically, it's with paper checks that get intercepted or forwards, and they can wash those checks, and if you don't know, you can't tell that it was original. And so we do a lot of fraud prevention on that. But the paper check being intercepted in the mail is one of the biggest issues that we face from a fraud standpoint.
Didn't realize that.
It's amazing. Well, thank you for being with us.
Yeah. God bless you,
great show.
Trustee.
And I think the big points out of this today is you got to the 29th to get your taxes due without paying a penalty.
Yeah.
And 2, if you're a senior, there is a freeze program, and if you're unable to make your full payment, don't discard it, to come in and talk to you guys and sit down, and y'all can make arrangements.
Don't wait till the last minute.
And if you're having issues with your taxes, if you're having some difficulty paying or whatever, call us. You can ask for me. I'm Teb Batey. I'll be glad to talk with you. If you wait to the last minute, when I say, because they do go to Chancery Court if they're unpaid, and they become the court then collects those. We have a statutory time limit that we have to turn those over. If you wait to the last minute and get that final delinquent notice, at that point we've kind of run out of time. But if you're struggling today, you have questions or answers, call us again. We'll try to work with you on helping you get payments made or talking you through it. But do that. It's not going to go away. And sometimes our tendency is to bury our heads. And I understand it. You get scared.
Sure.
And I'm sympathetic to that. But if you're having difficulty, we're not going to make fun of you. We're not going to look down. But we will do everything we can to help work with you to get those taxes paid. And just give us a call, and I'll be glad to. My staff is wonderful, but we'll talk with you about what the options are.
Thank you, sir.
Everybody, I hope you enjoyed our show this week, and we'll be back with you next week as we usually are. And I think we've got a great guest coming on next week as well. So everybody have a good week and be safe and stay warm out there.